I have been reviewing the JVC NZ900, which is their flagship. So one thing that I had mentioned to Kris is that every time I would turn on the projector, it's always a little bit blurry. And you guys know sometimes I wear glasses in my videos. I don't have the best eyesight. So every time I would turn it on, it would always look a little bit soft to me. So I'd always have to refocus it. So I thought maybe my projector was defective. But come to find out that no, this is like a normal occurrence for these high-end projectors with like 15 elements. Kris, I want you to explain what that means. What is 15 elements? Why is it that you have to wait for these really expensive projectors to catch focus after a certain period of time?
Yeah, so this is one of the trade-offs, I guess, with projector versus self-emissive displays, like a flat panel LCD, OLED, or anything else. Now, obviously, in those cases, the pixel itself is what's emitting the light, so you're not seeing anything that's like reflected light or anything. So they're just they're just putting out. So you basically always have perfect focus, right? I mean, there's resolution limitations, bit depth resolution, stuff like that, but there's no glass element that's focusing, right? So on a JVC, Sony, Epson, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's just generic across projectors, right? So all these different projectors have different sized lenses. So in your case with the NZ900, I can't remember right off the top of my head. Oh, it's 16 group 100 millimeter all glass lens, right? So 16 optical groups inside there. And each of those groups is doing different things. Maybe it's for this color, that color, whatever. I'm not really a lens guy, but obviously, from if you think of the lens, like the JVC lens, if I was to hold it here in front of me, let's say it's like this big. Okay, on like one of those like Hisense ultra short throws, that lens could probably, like be tiny, like maybe like this size, right? Like maybe about the size of this or something like that. And I mean, some of them, the ones that you see like on like something like a Valerian or whatever, might even be something as small as this,
Yeah.
as opposed to, like these a lot bigger lenses, right? So when you turn the projector on, the heat, so like that lens is going to change properties over time due to heat. There's heat going into it from light. That light is coming out of the light engine of the projector. So as that light, as you turn it on, the heat inside the projector is getting more and more, and then it's getting into the lens. So over time, those elements are warming up one after another at different rates. So the ones closer to the projector are warming up faster than the final element at the end of the lens. So as those warm up unequally, your focus is changing over time. So, most guidelines would tell you, like, if you want to focus a projector properly for like its absolute best possible focus, you'd probably want to wait 45 to maybe 45 minutes to an hour is probably a safe bet. So like if I come to your house and I calibrate a projector, part of that is, doing alignment, focus, and things like that. I don't do any of that until the end. I mean, I make sure that it's within rough focus or whatever, but I don't do a final focus until the end, because by that time I've probably been at your house for 2 hours, 3 hours, or whatever. There's no way that projector isn't fully, that lens hasn't equalized out across all elements. So now I can give you the best focus that it can possible. If I was demonstrating the projector or something like that, or you were just, hey, when I watch my projector, I want to make sure that it's in like its best possible operating condition, you would probably want to turn on the room and let it warm up before you're going to watch. So as I mentioned when you and I talked, in my personal case, I don't, if I'm going to watch something and I want to be at all critical, or I just know I want the best presentation of it possible, I turn on, my system from my phone or whatever and make sure that it's warming up. And I usually don't start watching anything until about half an hour, 45 minutes later than that. And even then, I'm going to get a little bit, but, at some point, how much of it you're going to notice, it's hard to say. Like you could just sit there and time it out for yourself, but yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what it is. And obviously the smaller the lens, the less time it takes. But in your case, you got one with a big lens. So like if you had like a big Barco or something with a, the lens that's the size of a JVC projector,
Yeah.
then that might even be even different in that case as well.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. So I haven't noticed that with the, well, I was going to say when I had the NZ8, I didn't notice that. But then again, the lens is definitely bigger on the 900.
Yeah, smaller lens, still a decent size all glass lens,
Yeah.
but again, it just, and again, like each lens might be different in how much of a transition. Like I've had I think now, let's see that I had the 4500, the NX9, the NZ9, the 25 LTD, and the NZ900. So I've had 5 projectors that have that lens that you have right now. And
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed that some of them, the difference between startup and later was, more or less, depending on which model I had. So there's always going to be some kind of sample variance in there. So, it'd just be a matter of like, testing out the theory yourself. Like bring up a desktop with like really small text or whatever, turn it on, maybe leave the room so you're not just sitting there watching it slowly. Come back in 10 minutes, and then be like, okay, how much did it focus? Like what you would want to do, I guess, is the day before, like wait an hour, get a really good tight focus where you're like, that's where I want it, spot on. Had the projector on for an hour, did it. Then the next day, turn it on with something with like small text, and then check it right
Yeah.
when you open it. Then check it maybe like every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever you want, and then find out like, okay, from 15 minutes on, I couldn't tell a difference at all. So that's probably how much warm up you need before you're going to watch anything if you want to be critical about it.
Gosh. Okay. So you, man,
It's the
all these
prices you
years.
pay, man. You could just go
Yeah.
self-emissive, but then you can't go the same screen size unless you're talking like micro LED, and then that has its own set of issues like noise and heat and electricity and blah blah blah. The list goes on. Gaps.
All right. All right. So would you recommend having presets for like the first,
It just
15 minutes or whatever?
it would just depend on how critical you are about what you watch and how much it really bothers you and stuff like that. And again, like what your
Yeah.
sample looks like. It's just never really been a problem for me because again, I'm not, like the odds of me just turning on my system, sitting down and watching it, it usually doesn't happen. But mine's not so bad when I turn it on that it's like something where I'm like, again, like if I was doing a demo or I'm watching something like, let's say I was reviewing like I was before, that would be different. But if I'm just watching like, I mean, if I'm just going up there to watch a YouTube video or something like that, I don't really care. It's not so bad. But as I mentioned, I had a client, that's local to here. He used to be on the forums a lot. He noticed this with his, I think it was an NZ9 that he had, but where
Mhm.
he set up different projector memory, lens memories that were based on the amount of time that was on. I think he even automated it so it like turned over and stuff like that. But he uses his projector a lot for PC work. So, he would literally
Yeah.
start up on a desktop, and obviously desktop graphics are a lot more demanding than, just throwing on a movie or something along those lines because obviously motion resolution and all those things. But desktop, a desktop is always going to be like one of the things that's going to set apart focus more than anything else. Like, so it really depends on what you're watching.